Also ich sehe das sehr lokalisiert, dieses eine Thema, und das wird jetzt nach Jordanien verlagert, und dann werden wir dort die Bedingungen haben, die wir brauchen für unsere Soldatinnen und Soldaten.
Well, it's been NATO's Middle East base of operations for decades. In the south of Turkey, Incirlik Air Base has illustrated the strength and unity of the alliance from its airfields. But now the bond that built a once solid partnership is in jeopardy. Germany has announced that its troops will withdraw from Incirlik. The pullout comes on the heels of Turkey denying German lawmakers permission to visit German soldiers stationed at the base, saying they have no obligation to do so. Now, the German government has said its troops at Incirlik will move to a base in Jordan. Turkey has responded by saying if they want to leave, it's up to them. The withdrawal comes as relations between Turkey and Germany have soured in recent months over Germany's perceived hostility toward Turkish politicians and security concerns. Well, joining me now to discuss this further is Turkey's former Minister for EU Affairs, Egemen Bağış. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me begin by asking you, why are Turkey and Germany here, a NATO ally, pulling troops out of an air base from where they're fighting a common and very dangerous enemy?
Well, this is a reflection of many actions and reactions. Unfortunately, Germany has been acting strange lately in her relations with Turkey. As you know, Turkey went through a bloody coup attempt past July. On July 15th, some members of a clan who were hiding their true identity in the Turkish military hijacked some Turkish warplanes, tanks, and helicopters, and they bombed our own parliament. They killed more than 250 people overnight, and they tried to take down the democratically elected government through undemocratic means. Unfortunately, some of those assassins, some of those terrorists, some of those violent former members of the military have found safe havens in Germany. Some of the prosecutors who tried to use a legal coup attempt to take down the government has found safe havens in Germany. And unfortunately, for years, Turkey has been demanding the extradition of PKK terrorists in addition to these FETÖ terrorists, but Germany has not been very cooperative. And some of the German politicians, some of the members of the German parliament who have sought permission to enter this base, which is a Turkish property, have made such outrageous statements and claims against Turkey, against Turkey's elected representatives, that Turkey has claimed that, well, we need to check the list of those German parliamentarians who want to come and visit the German soldiers. Turkey has nothing against Germany or the German nation or the German soldiers who are based in Turkey. But we have an issue with those statements made by some German politicians who are geared towards insulting and offending Turkey and the Turkish nation.
Okay.
And we raised this issue numerous times with Chancellor Merkel and the German authorities, and they have not responded positively. And they said, well, we would withdraw from Incirlik. We said they are more than welcome to visit other bases like the one in Konya, which is another NATO base. And they chose, no, they insisted on this Incirlik base. And until now, I don't think a settlement has been reached.
It hasn't. And there are some analysts that are now saying that Germany and Turkey are on this slippery slope whereby hurt pride and conflicting narratives, let's put it that way, are manifesting in ways that could produce very dangerous global implications whereby everyone loses. Do you share any of that sentiment?
Well, Turkey and Germany are the most important strategic partners of each other. There are more than 4 million Turkish citizens who live in Germany, and they have not been there recently. They've been there for like 60 years. So we have the largest diaspora of Turkey in Germany. Most of those 4 million people are also German citizens. They are taxpayers, they are business owners, they are employees, they are students, and they are engineers, and they vote in Germany as well. They're voters. Our trade volume with Germany is probably one of the highest in the world. We get more German tourists than any other nations. Neither Germany nor Turkey has the luxury to put an end to this relationship overnight. But as you said, both nations are very proud, and both governments are trying to protect their national interests. Especially Turkey, having gone through a very traumatic coup attempt in July, is trying to ensure that our allies within NATO, who have promised, according to NATO agreement, to be there for us when we need help, are actually there for us when we do need help, which is today. Because we're trying to fight a very dangerous terrorist organization called FETÖ. And the leader of that organization happens to reside in Pennsylvania, United States, another NATO ally. And some of his followers, who are responsible for hundreds of casualties in Turkey, have found safe havens in Germany. And they have been seeking asylum, and German courts have issued political asylum to those individuals. And that is adding insult to injury, and that's hurting us. But I'm hoping that the leadership, our foreign ministers, our prime ministers, the Chancellor of Germany, would get together and resolve those issues, because both countries need each other.
They do. And Egemen, another vital part of both Turkey and Germany's national interests is the fight against other terrorist extremists, including Daesh. Do you think that this dispute over German soldiers being in Incirlik Air Base actually puts the fight against Daesh at risk and effectively gives these terrorists an upper hand, knowing that NATO no longer has the unity to fight together against this common threat?
I definitely hope not, because the fight against Daesh is very critical for the stability of the world. We have soldiers fighting against Daesh, so-called ISIS, in Syria, in Iraq, around the Turkish border as we speak. And they're putting up a great fight against these barbaric terrorists who are defaming the good name of Islam. Our allies, however, have chosen to be in these military bases, giving logistical support and equipment support, but we would like to see them fighting with us shoulder to shoulder against these terrorists in Iraq and Syria and other parts of the Middle East. Unfortunately, the developments in the Middle East are not very promising. What's happening between Saudi Arabia and Iran and Qatar and United Arab Emirates, the whole region is approaching a chaos. And the only party which would benefit out of this chaos would be the Daesh terrorists. So I'm hoping that Turkey and Germany, along with all other members of NATO, would put their differences aside and try to make compromises and ensure a real, sincere cooperation in the fight against terrorism. The fight against terrorism should not have any discrimination either. Unfortunately, in the last 30 years, there has not been a single PKK terrorist that has been extradited from any European Union country into Turkey. Although we abolished the capital punishment, the death penalty, for this purpose, we still have not received any PKK members. When we request the extradition, they always claim that either the paperwork is not correct, the translations are not well prepared, the documents are missing. There's always something, an excuse. But when we demand the extradition of a petty criminal, a rapist, a thief, a killer, a murderer, somehow all the paperwork is perfect, the documentation is great, and that criminal is extradited to Turkey immediately. There is a double standard.
I was just going to say.
And the international community has to put an end to double standards in the way they treat terrorism.
There is perhaps a double standard, and we know that, that Turkey is fed up. So let me ask you as a final question here, how does this get better? If you held the magic wand to tell each party involved exactly what practical steps to take to resolve this, so that NATO can be unified once again, so that a common front, the strongest front possible, can be formed to fight the terrorist threats that exist on the border between Turkey and Syria, what would you do?
The magic word is sincerity. We have to be sincere with each other. Germany has to say, okay, you want these members of Fethullah terrorist organization to be extradited? I need more proof. And Turkey should share all the documentation on these cases with our allies. As far as the PKK is concerned, what is bothering Germany? They should be very open and transparent with us because we're their partners, we are their allies. When the time comes to ask for help, we should seek their help and they should seek our help, not the terrorists. And we have to be very open, sincere, and transparent with each other. And we have to realize that what unites us is a lot greater than what divides us. So we have to focus on those concepts like democracy, human rights, freedom of speech, mutual cooperation, stability, and the fight against terrorism as the values that unite us. And we have to focus on them, and we have to embrace those values.
Do you think Germany and Turkey can get there? Because at the very least, the tone has been respectful and cordial.
I think, yes, we can get there. Because as I said, there are more than 4 million Turkish Germans who represent a great bridge between the two countries. There's a huge trade volume. There's a very important tourism element in the relationship. Put all these together, yes, there are some different approaches, but working with your ally, with the government of an ally country, should always be better and easier and smoother than working with a terrorist organization and their representatives.
Okay, Egemen
Common
Baş.
sense has to prevail here.
Common sense will hopefully prevail. Egemen Baş, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us on the Newsmakers.